Good evening. What we think determines what happens to us. So if we want to change our lives, we need to stretch our minds. Welcome to BMC News Live in English, brought to you by Al Hilal Hospital and Medical Centers. I am Vinod Narayanan, joining you with the daily news updates. Today's headlines. His Majesty the King and Russian President reviewed bilateral relations and latest developments. Bahrain marked International Day for Older Persons. UAE and UN satellite initiatives to help Bahrain and Nepal gain access to space. India raised interest rate to 5.9% to tame inflation. Qatar confirmed COVID test requirements for World Cup fans. News in detail. His Majesty the King and Russian President reviewed bilateral relations and latest developments. A telephone call was held yesterday between His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa and Russian President Vladimir Putin. His Majesty King Hamad and President Putin reviewed the deep-rooted and steadily growing friendly Bahraini-Russian relations. They also discussed the latest regional and global issues and developments. They also stressed the importance of the concerted efforts to all to achieve lasting and comprehensive peace in a manner that would guarantee the interests and national security of all countries. While tackling OPEC Plus group commitments, His Majesty the King and the Russian President underlined the importance of continued coordination and adherence to the group's decisions. His Majesty the King emphasized the importance of activating channels of dialogue, negotiations and peaceful solutions to reach peace and development for all. Bahrain marked International Day for Older Persons. The Kingdom of Bahrain joined the world on October 1st every year to celebrate the International Day for Older Persons, which was approved by the UN Secretariat General in 1990. The United Nations chose resilience of older persons in a changing world as therefore this year's commemoration in order to shed light on the ability of the female elderly to face the environmental, social, and economic challenges and boost awareness of their contributions to the society. The Ministry of Social Development affirmed Bahrain's leading status at the Arab, regional, and international level in its strategic vision concerning the services provided for the elderly. It stressed that this is in line with the provisions of the Constitution and the developments witnessed by the Kingdom within the framework of a legislative and legal system, supporting the Comprehensive Development March led by His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa and supported by His Royal Highness Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Crown Prince and Prime Minister. Bahrain keen to launch initiatives aimed at adopting innovative green solutions. Minister of Sustainable Development Noor bint Ali Al Khulaif stressed Bahrain's keenness to launch initiatives and strategies aimed at adopting innovative green solutions so as to achieve the sustainable development goals and balance between economic growth and sustainability of the natural and environmental resources. This came during her participation in the dialogue session on sustainable development in the Kingdom of Bahrain, which was held within the activities of the 8th session of the World Green Economy Summit, which is being held under the patronage of the UAE Vice President, Prime Minister and ruler of Dubai, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. The summit is being held in the UAE under the theme Leading Climate Action Through Cooperation, the roadmap to achieving carbon neutrality, with the participation of a large number of the most prominent leaders of climate action, ministers and officials in all sectors of the green economy and sustainable development from around the world. Primary Healthcare Centres and Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland Medical University of Bahrain signed agreement. The Primary Healthcare Centres and Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland Medical University of Bahrain signed a cooperation agreement to support healthcare services. Under the deal, the primary healthcare centers will provide their facilities for the purposes of education, training and scientific research for medical faculty professors. RCSI Bahrain will also provide support services, including laboratories, libraries, diagnostic and therapeutic services to primary healthcare centers. Health Minister Dr. Jalila bint Al Said Jawad Hassan stressed efforts to consolidate public health services and build more partnerships with educational institutions. Primary Healthcare Center's Acting Chief Executive Officer Dr. Lulwa Rashid Showaiter and said that the agreement would bolster cooperation with RCSI Bahrain, a pioneering academic institution in the Arabian Gulf region. Bahraini delegation met International Atomic Energy Agency Director General in Vienna. the delegation of the Kingdom of Bahrain participating in the 66th regular annual session of the General Conference of the International Atomic Energy Agency, held here from 26th to 30th September 2022, headed by the permanent representative of the Kingdom to the agency, Ambassador Dr. Yusuf Abdul Karim Bouchiri, met the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi. The ambassador praised the constructive cooperation between the Kingdom of Bahrain and the International Atomic Energy Agency through technical cooperation and capacity building programs, which contributed to achieving sustainable development goals. The ambassador expressed his sincere thanks to the Director General, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and the IAEA's Board of Governors for their follow-up on the region's issues in the nuclear field, especially the Iranian nuclear program, as this file is directly linked to the security, safety and stability of the world. UAE and UN satellite initiative to help Bahrain and Nepal gain access to space. A space initiative by the UAE and UN is helping to give access to space to nations that are trying to develop their own space programs. Bahrain and Nepal were recently selected to add their technologies into a satellite called PHI-1. The modular satellite is part of the payload hosting initiative by the UN Office for Outer Space Affairs and the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center. Private companies will help build the satellite for the Space Center, with technologies from Bahrain and Nepal to be added in. A launch date has not been given. Bahrain's National Space Science Agency will develop the Amman payload, which will help secure communication between the satellite and ground station. Today's COVID updates.
COVID updates brought to you by Al Hilal Hospital and Medical Centers.
India raised interest rate to 5.9% to tame inflation. India's central bank on Friday raised its key interest rate by 50 basis points to 5.9% in its fourth hike this year, and said developing economies were facing challenges of slowing growth, elevated food and energy prices, debt distress, and currency depreciation. Reserve Bank of India Governor Shaktikanta Das projected inflation at 6.7% in the current fiscal year, which runs to next March. June was the sixth consecutive month with inflation above the central bank's tolerance level of 6%, he said in a statement after a meeting of the bank's monitoring committee. He said the central bank will remain focused on the withdrawal of the accommodative monetary policy, Associated Press reported. The bank's monetary committee slashed the real economic growth forecast to 7% for the current financial year from 7.2% forecast in August. The economic growth for the first quarter of the next financial year is expected around 6.7%. This also said the Indian rupee has depreciated by 4% since April against a 14% appreciation in the US dollar. The Indian rupee has plunged to an all-time low of 81.58 rupees to $1. Now we will be back after a very short break.
The 16th branch of Megamart and Macromart supermarkets in Bahrain has opened in Sahla. The best offers are available to the customers at affordable rates. Everyone is welcome. During and around the opening day, a variety of fish including salmon, meat and dairy products, roastery, frozen items, food and non-food items, groceries, fruits and vegetables, electronics, garments and ready-to-eat food items are available to the customers at affordable rates. Hearty welcome to all. Megamart and Macromart, your favorite shopping destination.
Welcome back. Saudi to record a budget surplus of $24 billion in 2022. Saudi Arabia is experiencing its budget surplus in 2022 to hit Saudi Riyal 90 billion and another Saudi Riyal 9 billion next year, the Ministry of Finance announced on Friday. Looking at the full year 2022 projections, real GDP is expected to grow by 8%, while inflation in 2022 may record about 2.6%. Looking at the next year's projections, Saudi total revenues are expected to reach about Saudi Riyal 1.12 trillion in 2023, while reaching about 1.21 trillion in 2025, according to the Ministry of Finance's preliminary statement of the state's general budget for the year 2023. Total expenditures are expected to reach about Saudi Riyal 1.11 trillion in the next fiscal year 2023, and that the expenditure ceiling will reach about Saudi Riyal 1.13 trillion in 2025. Qatar confirmed COVID test requirements for World Cup fans. Fans attending the World Cup in Qatar must show proof of a negative COVID-19 test, regardless of their vaccination status, organizers said in a statement on Thursday. All visitors aged 6 and over must present a negative result from a PCR test taken within 48 hours before their departure or from a rapid antigen test taken in the 24 hours before arriving, the Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy said. Results of the rapid antigen tests will only be accepted if they are from official medical centers and not self-administered. No further tests will be required in Qatar if visitors do not develop symptoms of COVID-19. Visitors aged 18 and above will also be required to download a government-run contact tracing phone application called Akhtaras. The green Akhtaras status is required to enter any public closed indoor spaces. Fans will have to wear masks on public transport, but vaccination is not mandatory for the unprecedented influx of 1.2 million visitors expected for the November 20 to December 18 tournament. OPEC Plus discussed cutting oil output at next week's meeting. OPEC Plus has begun discussions about cutting oil output when it meets next week, as a fragile global economy continues to pressure crude prices. The size of the potential supply reduction is still under consideration, said a delegate, asking not to be identified as the talks are private. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies will meet to decide November output levels on October 5th. Oil prices have slumped by a fifth since early August on fears over the global economy, trading near $88 a barrel in London on Thursday. The losses threatened the spectacular revenue windfall being enjoyed this year by Saudi Arabia and its partners. The OPEC Plus alliance showed its readiness to stabilize markets with a symbolic cut at its last meeting. Space telescopes captured asteroid SLAM with striking clarity. The world now has stunning new photos of the week's asteroid strike, the first planetary defense test of its kind. NASA on Thursday released pictures of the dramatic event taken by the Hubble and Webb space telescopes. A few hours later, SpaceX joined NASA in announcing that they are studying the feasibility of sending a private mission to Hubble, potentially led by a billionaire, to raise the aging telescope's orbit and extend its life. Telescopes on all 7 continents watched as NASA's DART spacecraft slammed Monday into the harmless space rock 7 million miles from Earth, in hopes of altering its orbit. Scientists won't know the precise change until November. The demo results are expected to instill confidence in using the technique if a killer asteroid heads our way one day, Associated Press reported. Break. Germany warned of rise in COVID-19 cases going into fall. Germany's health minister warned Friday that the country is seeing a steady rise in COVID-19 cases as it goes into the fall and urged older people to get a second booster shot, tweaked to protect against new variants. Other European countries such as France, Denmark, and Netherlands are also recording an increase in cases. Karl Lauterbach told reporters in Berlin. German officials recorded 96,367 new cases in the past 24 hours, about twice as many as a week ago. Starting Saturday, Germany's 16 states can again impose pandemic restrictions, such as a requirement to wear masks indoors, Associated Press reported. US outlined plan for long-term baby formula imports. US regulators on Friday unveiled their plan to allow foreign baby formula manufacturers to stay on the market long-term, an effort to diversify the nation's tightly concentrated industry and prevent future shortages, the Associated Press reported. The Food and Drug Administration said recent entrants to the US market will have until October 2025 to make sure their formulas comply with federal standards for nutrition, labeling, and manufacturing. The agency noted that some companies should be able to meet those requirements sooner. The US has been forced to turn to foreign manufacturers to boost formula supplies since February, when FDA inspectors temporarily shuttered the nation's largest domestic formula factory due to bacterial contamination. In May, the FDA eased federal import regulations and President Joe Biden authorized the airlift of millions of pounds of powdered formula from overseas. Together, those actions have brought the equivalent of 300 million bottles of formula into the country. According to the FDA, the policy allowing importation was set to expire in November, but the FDA said it would be extended to January, after which companies can ask to stay on the market longer. With that, we come to the end of today's news. Stay tuned for daily news updates in BMC News Live English at 7:30 p.m. every day. I am Vinod Narayanan signing off from BMC News Live. Good night.